Something just fell over.
That was a book.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. And this is the Weekend Post-Mortem. Hello, mate. How you doing?
How's it, man? There's a lot of talk about Ilona Maher, the American rugby player, changing things and breaking down barriers, 8 million followers and such. I just want to say, I've talked to everyone I know that's a dude, a male who pods that will talk to me, and none of them have a 25% female viewership segment like we do. Nobody. In fact, they're happy about 5%.
We're breaking the glass ceiling.
Breaking down barriers, man, and we don't even know how or why that is.
No, and we haven't even spoken to Ilona Maher, so
yeah, we've cracked the code, man.
Yeah, we're not quite sure how.
We just avoid laddish humor. We're not just telling like jockstrap stories and reveling in all that kind of old school retrograde
in our day.
But we're not especially woke either. So I don't know what we're doing.
No,
we're doing something right.
We're doing something right. And we are doing something right because our YouTube sub base just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the week, and we can't.
What's that number up to nowadays?
2,600 something. We've doubled our subscriber base in the last month, more than doubled it.
What are you guys doing watching us on YouTube? It's crazy. Well, thank you. Please continue. Tell all your friends. We do. Be fruitful and multiply. Yep.
Please do. With the Six Nations now behind us, the Weekend Post-Mortem reverts to sort of a full competition review mode for all the leagues around the rugby world. And we're really looking forward to getting into this. We'll pull out all the big results from all the games that grabbed us across the weekend around the leagues, and especially as we start edging closer to playoffs and final series and things like that, mate. So this is actually going to be good fun for the next few months. It will be, won't it?
Yeah. And some competitions are at the business end. Some are, just reaching that kind of prickly beginning, the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning. So I think that's what's great about rugby. I mean, I know we're going to try to get global calendars and all that lined up, but it kind of is the charm of rugby is that you have, the Prem kind of getting into its playoff mode and the ERC right when Super Rugby is going. Who's a pretender, who's a contender. It's fun.
Yeah, it's cool that some teams are trying to work out some competitions are still sort of working out who's who in the zoo, and then your finals time is not too far away in many comps. Remember, if you are watching us on YouTube, just hit that little red subscribe button down there in that bottom corner. And if you're listening to the 8-9 Combo via Spotify, via Apple Pods, any of the podcast platforms, hit subscribe, hit follow, hit like, whatever you need to do, and make sure you don't miss an episode. The 5-word headline will be back in July once international rugby resumes. So, mate, let's get into a long list of results. 6 leagues we can have a look at, and we'll start it with Super Rugby. Round 6 was run and won across the weekend. The Chiefs held on against the fairly resurgent Moana Pacifica on Friday night, 50-35. Queensland beat the Highlanders 29-23. It was their first win in Dunedin, and they looked pretty good in doing it too.
The clever Reds. Harry Wilson showing he's a clever bear. A 3, skill kind of athlete. It's almost like the Reds are showing the versatility that it maybe is required in 2025 to win in league, do well. I feel like all of rugby right now is kind of a upheaval, and you've got to play different ways every different week. You have to have incredible depth to be able to sustain this hurry. We don't like our sport that much. Go fast. Okay, so wow, you have to have a squad of 800 people. The refs are tired. Hey, refs, we have more levels, more rules, more variations. And by the way, you're going to be running more and then make decisions. And if you make one bad decision, we're going to just unload on you. So I think the Reds seem to be handling it. It's almost like having the national captain in your squad does help a little bit, maybe. Harry Wilson,
and that was.
Do you want to take over for the week? Yeah, sure. I got this.
Yeah, so that was the first time Harry Wilson had captained Queensland. They won that game. You're talking about depth. They won that game without Matt Fessler, without Fraser McWright, without Tate McDermott, without couple of other players as well that didn't even make the trip to Dunedin. And yeah, as I say, that their first win down there in just 12 years. So they are just clicking along nicely. I think the Reds, they're third overall now too. So
I think they have a game in hand maybe over the Brumbies. Not sure.
They are yet to have a bye. Yeah. The Waratahs. No, they've had a yes. That's right. The Brumbies are yet to have their bye.
So, one thing about social media for clubs, some clubs are putting out an extensive injury list every week. They actually give you updates. Like in the South African format, the Sharks are doing that very well. And then the Bulls are kind of old school, like, we'll tell you what you need to know. And I think it's interesting because when you actually, if you do look across those, and I kind of do, some of the players we know, and I feel, I care about them, and I want to see what's going on, whatever. Every team has got about 10,
the list
12.
is getting longer. Yeah.
Ooh.
That's something that Super Rugby has actually dialed up this year. They've all agreed that when they all name their teams at 2:00 Australian time on Wednesdays, they say, here's our team, and then here's our current unavailable list. Yeah. And so the Super Rugby site then as well will say, here's all the teams, and here's the casualty ward for round 6. So it's actually good. It's a good way of keeping track of things, I think. The Crusaders were pretty clinical in the end, mate. Against the still battling Blues, it's got to be said, 42-19 in Auckland. The Blues just cannot get out of the bottom third of the table, and it's on one hand, it's only round 6, but on the other hand, there's now only 9 games of 9 rounds to go, and at some point, their title defense is going to kick in, or is it? That's the question about the Blues now.
We were joking off air on the way in that it was a primary color switch here where the Blues gave all their powers to the Reds. Listen, no. In this shorter competition, in this much of a sprint, no. The last 2 weeks have been really damaging for the Blues' hopes, not just of doing well and repeating, getting into the finals. It's not a guaranteed.
That's the thing now. That they're only 1 or maybe 2 losses away from missing the top 6 completely. And it's funny. We're sort of talking about the Blues similar to how we talked about the Crusaders last year. Like, are we really writing them off? Are we going to write them off? And but I think we might get there with the Blues much earlier than we did with the Crusaders last year.
Well, because the Crusaders were one of the great champions of a league on a perennial basis. The Blues had always, since the beginning of Super Rugby, where the Blues did well, they'd been kind of a forever disappointing team. And for you particularly, the Blues have been a terrible tipping team. So
got them right this week.
It's almost like what we see now is the Crusaders have reverted back to their really high mean. Like
they've gone back to type. Yeah,
they've gone up to the top back mean.
Yeah, and it's interesting in itself. Like their halves are still a bit clunky. So, but they look scary. Their pack's really good. Their back row's really good this year.
They look scary, the Crusaders, because they have this attitude of like, if later in the season we want to tighten up and play more defense, we can. But for now, let's just score. Hey, you score a lot, we score a lot, we see what happens. And every time
score on this swing. Let's score on this swing.
To 30. Okay, you won.
And the high scoring trend has. There's lots of high scores across the weekend, like across all the leagues. There's a lot of 42-19. There's a lot of 45-44 type scores this weekend. Was there a full moon or something?
I checked the lunar cycles because we know from crime stats and other kind of things, markers that actually is really a universal thing. But no, it wasn't. And obviously there's a rush and there's an edict by World Rugby to make things go as quickly as possible, get them in and out of the stadium. And I'm not a big fan of that, by the way. I think it leads to some scrappy.
You've mentioned that.
But all I will say is that in that particular type of sweepstakes, the Crusaders are really scary because I don't think they really ever think they're not going to score. I think every single time there's a starter play or a set piece, they go, well, we'll probably score from here.
Yeah, we can work this out. The Waratahs ended a 13-game losing streak against the Brumbies, 28-23 up in Sydney. 2018, that losing streak went back to, but they hadn't beaten the Brumbies in Sydney since 2015. So it was a welcome win and a funny sort of result because the Brumbies largely dominated the first half, yet found themselves down by a decent margin at half time, and they just never really able to peg it back. And it was there. I'm writing about this for Rugby Pass this week. The Waratahs have got a lot of things they still haven't got right yet, but their defense is very, very good all of a sudden, and their back row is humming as well.
Yeah, that's why rugby is a beautiful game. I don't think it's like the simple accumulation game that some sports are, where if I'm doing the following metrics, well, better than you, then I can almost be sure that when I look across at the scoreboard, it mirrors that, and we say things like they deserve the lead. No, it's not deserved. In rugby, you still have to get the ball over the poles or across the line, and the efficiency with which a team can do that is easily as impressive as someone camping down forever and not exploiting it, or doing foolish things that result in lost ball and then the counter-attack team pounces. Yeah. Waratahs looked big and strong in the contact zone, but they looked on the sniffing a chance and taking it really clinical. And it was bizarre because I thought maybe going into this that there was a possibility that they'd be really found out, that there'd be more of the same since 2013 and the kind of the same old story.
I think that was the expectation. I think it was, and like I mentioned that the dominant first half, that like the Brumbies, all bar 45 seconds of the first half, basically, or certainly the first half an hour, were well on top. They had this game well in hand, yet the scoreboard said they were down 14-6 and then 21-6. So
I guess that's my point. Is it's not really in hand as long as the scoreboard reflects it, because
no, that's right.
Defenses can tighten up in the red zone. And the quality of the Waratahs scores was particularly high. They created mismatch, and it wasn't by accident. So, the sad scene, I've got it up on my social. So take a look at Twitter of Andy Muirhead sitting cross-legged, forlorn, with one off of his man disheveled. And in the foreground, you see almost a silverback gorilla, scoring and roaring and looking massive because of the perspective of the photo. And I just thought, we dwell a lot on mismatches in speed and space, but there's also this idea that Leota can look like Lomu, which is up against Andy, and Andy got there. To be fair, but it was so sad because
he ran 30 meters from the outside, from the inside out to get there. But
sure, and then he sets. And he gets the right shoulder, and he gets two hands, and he actually grips, and his hands meet around Leota's legs, and it's still just a mismatch.
Momentum just does that. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and look, he's playing some fantastic rugby since he's moved up to Sydney Rugby Auto.
What about Tane Edmed, which is sometimes it's difficult to evaluate the fortunes of one player inside a team that's ebbing and flowing and waning. But I will say that on involvements, and you just look at the quality of involvements, and I haven't done this all the way for Creighton, but on Tane's involvements, whether it was flushing a kick from the trams just perfectly, beautifully with that beautiful draw he talked about on our show, but also the quality of about a 27-meter pass. It was very much like Sam Prendergast in the Six Nations, just whipped flat,
last try,
curving around. Also a draw on that pass, actually, landing perfectly in the breadbasket of Jorgo, which gave him so much more time and space to create that little move he had. If you give Jorgensen that much time and space, it's a problem for the defense. Good job on Tane and just creating that, and also rucking, counter-rucking, attending rucks. He's an all-court player, and I want him to start.
He was good. He was really good. He was, and it certainly kicked off another round of why isn't he starting? I had it put to me over the weekend that perhaps he is best to deliver what the Waratahs need at the end of the game, and we've discussed this a bit this year. And there's probably some merit in that as well, but I also think he could probably comfortably play 80 minutes if you want. Anyway,
Creighton to me doesn't look like he's the originator or author of the good things that were happening during that spell. He looks a bit, to me, he's
playing fine. He's playing fine, but
it looks too easy to prepare for. If I'm preparing for him against him, I think I can find him a lot, hit him a lot. I think he got hit a lot. Tane is quicker on the catch.
True. The Force beat Fiji and Drua pretty comfortably on Sunday afternoon in the late game, 52-15. And the table now, the Chiefs are 3 points clear on top on 22. Crusaders are 19. The Reds are 19. They've both won 4 games. Then the Waratahs have won 4 games as well. They're on 17. The Brumbies 15. The Force 14. So 4 Australian teams in the Super Rugby top 6. I can't think the last time that all Australian teams were in finals positions. And I know it's only round 6 and all that and doesn't guarantee anything, but the fact that this is happening is actually a sign of the resurgence this year, which is a good thing. Round 13 of the ERC it was this weekend just gone, and there was a myriad of results there, as we can see on the screen. And for our pod listeners, again, just jump on the YouTube and you'll see scores go up, and you'll see images from each game as we talk through them and all that as well. Glasgow scored 2 converted tries in the last 12 minutes to down Munster 28-25. And we talked about that one late last week. We identified this one as our games of the week, and it ended up being a pretty entertaining game, mate.
Yeah, I watched a lot of this live. Actually, listened to a lot of this live on my bicycle on a long ride, and it's actually interesting to listen to a television broadcast, but only as if it was radio. It was a thrilling game, and it was. I liked, as it was reported to me from the commentators, I liked the efforts at the ruck, hard fought. Both of those teams should be in or abouts in the playoffs at the end. So this may be kind of a preview, depending on how the ERC shakes up.
Yeah, could well be. The Sharks needed a 74th minute try to overcome Zebre 35-34 in Durban, and I mean that would have been a boil over if Zebre won down there, mate. Yeah.
Do you want 3 talking points quick on that?
Yeah, number one is one of them Sia Khaleesi.
They got 9 wins just like the Bulls in Glasgow. So in a sense, you get fooled by the log, but just look at, the number of wins. And there's a clear separation from Leinster, obviously, with 1 loss and then down to the 9-win teams. But inside that, the Sharks are winning so narrowly all the time. They almost
their points for and against is +5. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Second, Sia Khaleesi has been playing number 8, with Fipsi Buthelezi being shifted over to 6 a lot. South African set, the 7 for everyone else. And it's generated some talk at the Bach level of maybe that's a way to prolong Sia Khaleesi's career, play him off 8, so he's not in as many jackal, pilfer situations.
And actually getting and it looks like that he's actually carrying more and carrying wider as well, not just belting it up the middle. Yeah, that there could be something in that.
Very good wide carrier. And the third talking point is the fact that Ma Pimpy is not over. He's not done. He still has something.
He's still going.
He's very good. He's hard to tackle, man.
Yeah, well, and he's certainly hard to tackle when he's playing multiple competitions at once. The Bulls needed a David Creel penalty goal in the 85th minute to score a dramatic 21-20 win over Leinster at Loftus, and this was a bit of a old-fashioned slugfest from what I can gather. I've seen highlights of this and not too much more, but they had to work hard for it.
Yeah, I watched this game. Actually, it was one of the games I watched fully, and it was very interesting because you had at the beginning, Archie Snyman and Jordy Barrett and Rabah Slamani, the sort of people who've been used as their super subs, were moved into starting lineup. So almost predictably, Leinster started out better than the Bulls. And then in the middle of the game and then near the end, the Bulls' scrum supremacy against the backup front row became a big thing. But then there was, it was almost like both teams down the stretch had troubles with composure. Sebastien de Klerk getting red carded for one of those old school aerial challenges that we thought was gone from the game, where people know, don't jump in the air looking at the ball only. You got to see where the catcher is. And that looks like, okay, now Leinster has it. So here's where I'm going to preach this parable is the reason why the game became exciting and was not boring from minute 76 on and able to be iced is that the scrum that Leinster won and then had to convene and get the ball in, can throw it in crooked, right under in route one. They still lost a tight head scrum and were penalized, which allowed David Creel to kick the penalty. After 4 resets, and it's on minute 85, that makes our game more exciting than being able to run out the clock, where it's almost nothing that the team that is trying to win can do. And you have there's a way to ice the game, and it's sort of boring.
Yeah.
It's so cool that a scrum can still dictate your fate, and there's nothing you can do. Even if you try to create a reset and a free kick, no, I'm going to make you prove it. And they couldn't seal the deal. So, and David Creel had to bang it over, which was no easy thing too.
No, he got it done. Ospreys are now up to 7th after they beat Connacht 43-40 in Swansea. And so, as you say, Leinster are 9 points clear of Glasgow in first. So Leinster 58 with 12 wins. Then the 9-win teams, Glasgow on 49, Bulls 45, Sharks 44. Then it's a bit of a gap back to Cardiff on 6 wins, Munster on 6 wins, Ospreys are on 6 wins, Stormers are on 6 wins. So they're 35, 34, 33, 33. Ulster and Benetton have both got 6 wins, and they're outside the 8 now on 32, 32. So there's a fair bit to play out over these last 5 rounds of the ERC. Particularly around those, sort of 6, 7, 8 positions. So there's a bit to play out there, which will.
The Stormers throw the most offloads. I think it's over 140 so far in the season, and they did about 8 in one scoring sequence this weekend.
Oh, there's a mad try.
Everyone's doing chicken wings. Sonny Bill Williams at the back. A couple of locks did it twice in the same movement. But it all begun by Sasha Feinberg Ngomozulu, who's back, baby. And I decided, there's a Greek figure in old Greek literature called a satyr, which is a half man, half goat, kind of like Vince Carter was called half man, half amazing. And a satyr is wild and, shall we say, productive, a bit lascivious. I'm actually thinking that that's what Sasha is, half man, half goat, man. I'm not even going to say that he's the goat. Forget, you take your goats. He's even better than that because he has that.
Yeah, it's worth finding the clip of that try. There is 3 or 4 flick passes in it. There's 2 or 3 dummies in it. I'm sure at one point the ball carrier was running in a different direction to his support. It was just
there's some vicious dummies by Warwick Galant, Jeff Mark's favorite player.
Absolutely filthy dummies, absolutely. But it's a great try. It's
my joke about Galant is that he never really knows himself if he's dummying or not. It's spontaneous. Like in the middle of the dummy, he goes, "No, I'm keeping it."
Yeah, I'm still going. Round 12 of the Premiership in England, and it was Derby weekend was how they failed this one. Leicester thumped Northampton 33-0 at Franklin's Gardens, and the Saints title defence is in a world of trouble as well. Sale was too good for Newcastle, 39-15 in Newcastle. Replacement fly half Jamie Benson kicked 2 conversions and 3 long-range penalty goals to lead Harlequins to a 23-12 win over Saracens in the London Derby in front of 54,000 people at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Saracens led 12-0 at halftime, and so it was literally a game of 2 halves. If you were down the wrong end, you didn't see a lot of action. It was everything up the other end, and they were very, very good, Harlequins, from the bits that I saw.
Definitely a game of two halves. The Leicester Tigers game was a game of two halves, but the Tigers had both, and so it was really,
a game of two halves that Northampton were not in either of them. Yeah,
I sat down to watch that game, and it was so interesting because the Saints were all ragged out from the Six Nations. Finn Smith looked like he was just running around on one leg, and then I thought, no, the way you contract players. So the Tigers have Andre Pollard. They had Freddie Stewart, who was benched for the Six Nations that didn't play much. He had Julian Montoya. I mean, it literally was, you get the strategic part of signing international players that are not in the Six Nations to play on your Premiership team. It's a bit of an up.
Yeah, absolutely. Bristol were pretty comfortable beating Exeter 52-38 at Ashton Gate. And then
did
Sunday.
You see this game at all?
Sorry, I didn't see.
There was a sequence. You got to watch just the sequence. You can watch maybe the first 15 minutes, and then they cut away to the coaches in their boxes, and they go, "What do you need to work on?" And one coach, was it Rob Baxter, was like, "Well, we got to catch one of the restarts." There was a sequence in which 4 restarts in a row were taken by the kicking team. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen insecurity of that level on just catching the ball. In one, Bernard Janssen van der Eberg actually took it in the air and glided in untouched. He just literally sailed
through. Yeah, right.
Incredible hang time, and just whoop, he was in. And I'm like, wow, that's the best way to score a try.
Did you not watch the 2023 Wallabies? Will Stewart and Sam Underhill both scored second half tries to get Bath home 42-26 against Gloucester at the Rec on Sunday. That was 26-24 Gloucester led at halftime, I think, and it was all one-way traffic from there. No, I've buggered that up. No, Bath led 28-26. I beg your pardon. And then scored 2 converted tries in the second half. Finn Russell, back in Bath mode, was just largely unstoppable.
It's a nice team. You got Will Stewart being one of the form targets.
Will Stewart was really, really good.
Finn Russell, which at club level, he's so good. It enabled the Harry Index to go early because there was so much faith in Johan van Kraan's team.
Hold fire on that. We'll discuss that on Wednesday. We will.
I just say that there's some teams you have faith in, and this team from Bath looks like it's one of those teams that in the league itself has got it figured out. Fair. Obviously, they shit the bed in the Champions League.
So they're on. They're on top of the table with 10 wins, 51 points. Then Bristol back on 45 from 8 wins. Leicester are now third on 40 points with 7 wins. Quins are now up to 4th. On 36 points with 6 wins. Gloucester are on the same, 36 points from 6 wins. Sale 34, Saracens 34, Northampton 26, just inside the Champions Cup spots. But their points differential is only -3. So So there could be something more in that one. It was round 18 of the top 14. Cast kicked 2 second half penalty goals to draw level with La Rochelle, 12-0. I saw that scoreline and I thought that's a game that no one cared about. Claremont are now out of the top 6 after their 23-21 loss to 12th place Racing. Paul edged closer to the top 6 with a 40-38 win over Montpellier, and that was pretty hard fought from all reports. That was the one that they had to work very, very hard for, but a very deserved win now for Poe.
Yeah, no, it's and the top 14 is getting into that. You run a marathon, you prepare for a certain amount. Let's say you're preparing for it in miles, 26.2. It's that 0.2 that gets you. So top 14 right now is people are running on gas, and the teams that have a not so much international Six Nations flavor are really on the up right now.
Poe just as I say, just on the edge of the top 6 and jump Montpellier with that win. I'm pretty sure. 11th place Stade Francais upset 4th place Bayonne 31-27 in Paris as well. So the tables it's getting tight there. And the top three are the top three: Toulouse, Toulon, Bordeaux. They're all 60 plus points. They're all on 13 wins. But then the next batch of teams that have won 9 or 8 stretches from Lyon in 5th on 44 points down to Stade Francais in 11th on 36 points from 8 wins. So there's going to be a lot of chop and changing there around the last 3, I think.
The ability to get to the real playoffs and win when it's all actually on the line. Yeah. Lyon is the one that looks like it has some potential.
Potentially,
to create problems.
Yeah,
but
they're
it should be the top 3.
Of that group of teams with 9 wins, 9 or 8 wins, Lyon are the only ones, but Montpellier, funnily enough, with a positive for and against. So, they're the team to keep watching there. It was week 14 in Japan. You tried to talk me into Honda Heat, Urayasu D-Rocks as game of the week last week, and I laughed at you. But the D-Rocks recorded just their second win of the year, beating Honda Heat 39-31. So, props to you for suggesting that one. That wasn't a bad shout at all. The Toyota for Blitz are down to 11th now, and very much in the relegation zones after a 31-22 loss to the Mitsubishi Dynamos.
Is that who Michael Hooper plays for?
The Blitz, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The Dynamos is Curtly Aarons's team there, as you can see on screen there. The big boil over result of the weekend is Toshiba Brave Lupus beating Saitama Wild Knights 42-31 in the grand final rematch. Now, this is, and I'm told my spies in Japan tell me that this game was far more comfortable for Toshiba than the scoreline suggests. This is Panasonic's second consecutive loss. This has never happened in the League One format. In fact, it's the first time since the 2018-19 season that Panasonic have lost consecutive games. And so they're in a bit of trouble now. They've got injury concerns, and suddenly Toshiba have now, I think, won their last 3 games against them, and they've really got the upper hand. So Toshiba are now on top in Japan as well. So and just under 17,000 at the Chichibu in Tokyo to watch that one as well. So interesting things happening in Japan, and their table, as I say, Toshiba on top now on 46, Panasonic 45, Kubota Spears, which is Bernard Foley's team, are only 2 points behind them. The rest of the top 6 looks pretty set. The Dynamos in 7th are 1 win outside the top 6 there. But yeah, the Fablitz now down to 11th, and they might be in a bit of trouble as well. Round 6 of Major League Rugby, mate, to wrap it all up. Old Glory consolidated second in the Eastern Conference with that 28-14 win over New England. The goddamn Houston Sabercats needed an 80th minute penalty goal to beat the winless Anthem RC 46-45. And Jed Holloway scored in San Diego Legion's pretty comfortable 31-12 win over Miami Sharks. And they are the only unbeaten team in Major League Rugby after 6 rounds now.
It's very important in any beginning league or a league that's trying to find its way that the bottom of your league not be a joke. And so the Anthem playing as well as they have been, even though they're losing, but testing teams is a really good, healthy sign.
Yeah, they've gone close. That's the 3rd or 4th game, I think, now that they've lost by not many. So, the signs are certainly good. You would have to.
It's very damaging for a league as a whole if you have easy beats at the bottom, and they become part of your narrative, and you resist in relegation, promotion. It just starts a smack of everyone wants to have an easy beat, a stat patter. The problem with that is, as you see in the Prem, you can get to a point where at every point when you get to what you think is the right amount of teams you cut, another team winds up in financial problems because no one really likes to be a fan base where all
yeah that's
get killed.
That's certainly true. That's certainly true. Yeah. Anything else to wrap up, mate? That's a pretty 6 leagues is a bit to get through, isn't there?
Good stuff. It was a fun week. I think my overall diagnosis of the rugby is that everyone's a bit reacting to some of the volatility. I think there's not a lot of teams that can go wire to wire in a comp. The Chiefs look like they might be one of those, like Leinster and Toulouse, but we'll have to see. And for sure, beyond the top team, there's not many, like sure things. I think when we're doing our tips nowadays, we're
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's certainly fair. That then is another weekend post-mortem behind us. Tell us what you think right here on the 8-9 Combo YouTube channel, just down there in the comments. You can leave a comment as well if you're listening on Spotify, and we'd love to hear from you. Or, of course, by hitting us up and finding us and following us at the 8-9 Combo on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and on YouTube as well. Please share us as far and wide as you can and leave a rating and a review wherever you can as well. Harry and I remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed in a rugby podcast. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we'll be back in your ears in just a few days with the great Tony Johnson for another great rugby chat.
Come play with us. That was up talking.
Good inflection. Controversial way to end.